Welcome back to Totally Pointless. So tonight, we're going to be taking a deep dive into what's going on with Justin Trudeau
Oh, yeah.
and try to make sense of the political storm that's brewing in Canada.
And believe me, there is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Canadian politics are rarely this dramatic.
Right.
But right now, it feels like we're on the edge of a major shift.
It's like watching a political thriller unfold in real time.
Yeah.
So to help us navigate all of this, let's do some quick introductions. I'm JT.
And I'm TJ.
And together we're going to break down why Trudeau is facing so much pressure to resign,
Yeah.
what his options are, and what all of this means for the future of Canada.
Okay, so the biggest immediate threat to Trudeau's power comes from Jagmeet Singh and the NDP.
Right.
They're not mincing words.
No.
They want this government gone, and they're ready to use a non-confidence vote to make it happen.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit. What's driving the NDP's frustration with Trudeau? It seems like their dissatisfaction has been simmering for a while now.
One major point of contention has been the Liberal government's handling of affordable housing.
Okay.
The NDP has been pushing for more aggressive action to address the housing crisis, and they feel like Trudeau hasn't delivered on his promises.
Right.
They see this non-confidence vote as a way to force the issue and potentially trigger an election where housing affordability will be a key issue.
So it's not just about political maneuvering. There are real policy differences at play here. This isn't some abstract power struggle. It has tangible consequences for Canadians who are struggling to afford a place to live.
Exactly. And beyond housing, the NDP is also frustrated with what they perceive as a lack of progress on other key issues like climate change and pharmacare.
Right.
They argue that Trudeau's government has been too focused on appeasing corporate interests and hasn't done enough to address the needs of everyday Canadians.
So for the NDP, this is about more than just toppling Trudeau. It's about seizing the opportunity to push their own agenda and try to reshape the political landscape.
Precisely, they see this as a chance to finally break through and establish themselves as a truly influential force in Canadian politics.
So with all this pressure mounting, what are Trudeau's options? It seems like he's in a bit of a political corner.
He really is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that his popularity has taken a hit in recent years.
Right.
He's facing dwindling support within his own party, and the opposition is sensing blood in the water.
Yeah.
Realistically, he has three main paths forward.
Okay.
None of them ideal. Resignation,
Okay.
calling an election, or proroguing Parliament.
Let's unpack those a bit. Resignation would be the most straightforward option. But it would be a huge blow to the Liberal Party and could trigger a messy leadership race. It's not something any leader wants to do unless they absolutely have to.
Right. And then there's the option of calling a snap election.
Okay.
This could be a gamble. Trudeau might be hoping that Canadians will rally behind him as the more experienced leader in uncertain times.
Right.
But it's a risky bet.
Yeah.
The NDP and the Conservatives are both eager for an election, believing they can capitalize on the current discontent and potentially sweep into power.
So calling an election could backfire spectacularly.
Yeah.
It's like playing political Russian roulette.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third option, prorogation.
Okay.
This one's a bit more complex.
Okay.
Essentially, it means suspending Parliament,
Oh, yeah.
giving Trudeau a temporary reprieve from the pressure and buying him some time to regroup and strategize.
Okay, so it's like hitting the pause button on Parliament.
Yeah,
But I imagine this would be pretty controversial, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Critics argue that it's undemocratic and a way to avoid accountability.
Right.
It might delay the inevitable, but it's unlikely to solve Trudeau's fundamental problem.
Plus, it won't stop the NDP's push for a non-confidence vote. They seem pretty determined to bring this government down, and prorogation might just fuel their fire.
It's important to remember that Trudeau is facing challenges not just from the opposition, but from within his own party as well. There are growing rumblings of discontent among Liberal MPs, and some have even publicly called for his resignation.
So he's getting squeezed from all sides.
Exactly.
It's like being caught in a political vice.
Precisely. And this pressure from within his own ranks is perhaps the most telling sign of Trudeau's vulnerability.
Right.
It suggests that even some of his closest allies are losing faith in his ability to lead.
So we're seeing a real erosion of trust and confidence, both within the Liberal Party and among the broader public. And this leads us to the big question. Can Trudeau weather this storm?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah,
We've laid out the challenges he's facing,
right.
the options or lack thereof at his disposal, and the forces arrayed against him.
Yeah,
But politics is a fickle beast,
yeah.
and predicting the future is always a risky business.
Well, we've done a good job of setting the stage and understanding the key players in this political drama.
Yeah.
When we come back, let's dive a bit deeper into the potential consequences of all this uncertainty. Because this isn't just about who sits in the Prime Minister's chair. It has real implications for all Canadians.
Absolutely. The stakes are high. And the outcome of this political battle will shape the direction of Canada for years to come. Stay with us.
So we've laid out the political battlefield and the players involved. Now let's shift our focus to what this all means for Canada. Because this turmoil isn't just some abstract political game. It has the potential to create real ripple effects throughout the country.
Exactly. One of the most immediate concerns is the impact on investor confidence.
Right.
When businesses see political instability, they get nervous, they hesitate to make big investments, and that can slow down economic growth.
It's like a giant question mark hanging over the country.
Yeah.
If you're a company thinking about building a new factory or launching a major project, you might think twice if you don't know who is going to be in charge or what policies might change in the near future.
And this uncertainty can have a domino effect. It can impact job creation, interest rates, even the value of our dollar. The longer this political drama drags on, the more likely it is to have tangible consequences for everyday Canadians.
So this is about more than just who occupies the Prime Minister's office.
Yeah.
It's about the economic well-being of the entire country. And speaking of the bigger picture, let's not forget about Canada's international relationships. We rely on strong partnerships with other countries for trade, security, and diplomacy. And right now, all eyes are on us, wondering what's going to happen next.
It's particularly interesting how this is playing out in the United States.
Yeah.
They're our biggest trading partner and closest ally, and
Yeah.
they're watching this whole situation unfold with a mix of concern and perhaps a bit of impatience. The U.S. needs a reliable and predictable partner, and right now Canada is looking a little shaky.
It's like being the awkward guest at a dinner party who everyone knows is about to make a dramatic exit. You're not really part of the conversation anymore, and people are already speculating about who's going to replace you.
And that can make it difficult to negotiate trade deals, address security concerns, or even just have our voice heard on the global stage. Canada's lame duck status, as some have called it, weakens our bargaining position and makes us more vulnerable to external pressures.
So there's a real cost to this political instability.
Yeah.
It's not just about the drama playing out in Ottawa. It affects Canada's standing in the world and our ability to pursue our interests on the international stage. And let's not forget the wild card in all of this, the incoming Trump administration.
Right, that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah.
Trump is known for being unpredictable, and putting America first dealing with him was always going to be a challenge. But it's even tougher when Canada's own political house isn't in order.
It's like trying to negotiate a delicate peace treaty while standing on one leg. You're not exactly projecting strength and stability.
Now, it's important to acknowledge that Canada has a strong foundation and a resilient economy. We've weathered political storms before, and we'll likely weather this one too. But the longer this uncertainty persists, the greater the risk of lasting damage.
So it's a balancing act. We need to acknowledge the potential risks without giving in to pessimism. Canada has faced tough challenges before, and we've always found a way to come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. And that's why it's crucial for Canadians to be informed and engaged, understand the issues, follow the developments, and make your voices heard. The future of Canada is at stake.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, let's shift our focus to what might happen next. We've explored the challenges, the potential consequences. Now let's try to envision some possible scenarios for how this political thriller might unfold.
Fasten your seatbelts, folks, because Canadian politics is about to take us on a wild ride. It's impossible to predict the future with certainty, but by analyzing the current trends and the motivations of the key players, we can at least start to sketch out some potential outcomes. Join us as we delve into the realm of political forecasting and explore what the future might hold for Justin Trudeau and for Canada.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. The pressures on Trudeau, potential consequences for Canada, and the role of the NDP. Now let's put on our prognostication hats
Okay.
and try to imagine what the future might hold.
It's always tricky to predict politics, but we can look at some possible scenarios based on what we know.
Right.
The most likely outcome, given everything we've discussed, is that Trudeau steps down.
Okay.
The pressure from both within his party and the opposition is immense.
Yeah.
And it seems more like a question of when, not if.
But how that resignation happens and what comes after,
Right.
that's where things get interesting. Does he make a sudden announcement?
Yeah.
Does he try to orchestrate a more controlled exit? Does he stay on as a caretaker while the Liberals find a replacement?
Right.
Or does he step back entirely?
Those are key questions. And then there's the potential for a very messy leadership race within the Liberal Party itself.
Yeah.
Ambitious contenders,
Right.
internal divisions, maybe even some long-held grudges coming to the surface. It could get chaotic.
So even if Trudeau steps down, the instability might not end there. The Liberals could be in for a period of infighting and soul-searching as they try to figure out their next move.
Exactly. And this raises a crucial question. Could a new Liberal leader, someone with less baggage and a fresh perspective, actually stabilize the situation? Could they even win the next election?
Right.
Or is the damage to the Liberal brand already too deep?
It's like trying to reboot a computer that's been hit with a particularly nasty virus.
Yeah.
You can try to clean it up, but it might never run quite the same way again.
Now, we also have to consider the less likely but not impossible scenario. Trudeau somehow manages to hang on.
Okay.
Maybe he prorogues Parliament, buys himself some time, tries to regroup, or maybe he gambles on a snap election, hoping Canadians will rally behind him despite all the turmoil.
But as we've said, both of those options are incredibly risky. Prorogation looks weak and undemocratic, and a snap election could easily backfire if voters decide they've simply had enough.
Public opinion is fickle. Trudeau was once incredibly popular,
Right.
but his star has faded. He might be hoping for that rally around the flight effect. But there's no guarantee Canadians are in a forgiving mood.
So while we can't predict the future, we've explored the key forces at play and some potential outcomes. This is a pivotal moment in Canadian politics, and the choices made in the coming weeks and months will have a lasting impact.
And regardless of what happens with Trudeau, this whole situation highlights some deeper trends in Canadian politics. The growing assertiveness of the NDP, the public's desire for change, the challenges of maintaining stability in a rapidly shifting world.
Absolutely. This is about more than just one politician or one party. It's about the future direction of Canada and our place in the world.
So thank you for joining us on this totally pointless deep dive into the uncertain future of Justin Trudeau.
Yes.
They hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit thought-provoking.
And remember, even though our show is called Totally Pointless, staying informed about what's happening in Canadian politics is anything but.
So stay engaged, stay curious, and make your voice heard.
And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you soon for another deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes perplexing world around us.